John Ross with the John Ross Show. It's Friday, January 16th, 2026. 35 degrees outside, and we're looking at Chicago in the background from 1967, some of the snow there. So it's a whole 35 degrees out there, and we might have some snow for the weekend. And for the Bears game, I think we might have some snow, light snow. I don't think it's going to be heavy, but it's going to be cooler. So I don't know. It's going to be challenging there. Today we're going to elaborate a little more on what we talked about the other day on Wednesday. We're going to put a little more caption on it. The divine right of kings in Romans 13. Romans 13, it starts out, if you don't have the Bible in front of you or know this, I heard this many times in churches, and other people use this verses here from Paul. Everyone must submit to the governing authorities, for all authority comes from God. Those in positions of authority have been placed by God. Here's another part of the second verse of Romans 13. So anyone who rebels against authority is rebelling against what God has instituted and will be punished. And then verse 3. For authorities do not strike fear in people who are doing right, but those who are doing wrong. Would you like to live without fear of authorities? Do what is right, and they will honor you. The authorities are God. This is verse 4. The authorities are God's servants, sent for your good. But if you're doing wrong, of course, you should be afraid, for they have the power to punish you. They are God's servants, sent for the very purpose of punishing those who do what is wrong in verse 5. So then you must submit to them, not only to avoid punishment, but also to keep a clear conscience. Then he talks about going on about paying taxes. This is very interesting. I've always wondered about this. I'm not going to have all the answers here, but I'm going to bring up more questions probably than answers here in this Romans 13 verse. This Romans 13 has been used like in the South by churches that didn't want to have anything that said the slaves should keep where they're at, and other times of government things that the government people want the government just don't want anybody to speak up. Now, our country was founded by rebellion against the king. So I assume some people on the pro-British side would use this verse. And democracy is totally different than kings. So the authority comes from the people who vote in a government. That's how it comes, and you could say, well, that's from God. Each election is that way. If they're fair and honest, what about a dishonest election? So, divine right of kings. So that means the king can do no wrong. And that's somewhat what that section says. This is very interesting because Paul, I just was looking this up, was in Corinth when he wrote this. And later he was in Rome and got Nero and others had him beheaded. So this didn't work out so good for Paul. He got punished because he got blamed for a fire in Rome. The Christians got blamed, and Nero did that. Nero didn't last much longer than after that, but and Peter got crucified upside down. So why were they punished? They didn't do anything wrong. Same with Jesus. We could use that thing about Jesus. Why was he punished? And so I guess by divine right of kings, we could never have prophets to go out and say something about our government. John the Baptist was a prophet. He got in trouble for what he said. He told Herod he was a bad. He told Herod he was a bad boy and about Herodias and the whole thing, and then he later got beheaded. But he told him he was acting wrong. In other words, he wanted him to repent. So, under the divine right of kings, we would have no prophets. We just accept whatever happens. Doesn't sound too good to me. It doesn't sound too biblical either about stressing for justice and righteousness in our government, in our communities. We just let everything go. We just let it all go. So this divine right of kings in Romans 13 is, I think Paul was hoping that that would address some of the Christians there and they would get off the hook with the government. That's my opinion. I don't know if other theologians or scholars on that would say that, but I think he was trying to get off the hook so he wouldn't get, he was appeasing the Roman government there by saying that. It sounds good. It's an appeasement statement, in my opinion. But maybe it's deeper than that, and I'm open to that. But it sure sounds like that. It didn't work out because Paul lost his life through the Roman government. So didn't Peter. So when we stand up for injustice, it can have consequences, but also it can have redeeming effect of change. We had our country came about because the people stood up because they didn't like the taxes and the way the king was doing stuff. They wanted their independence and they did that. And there's other times the civil rights movement stood up against those in the South and other areas who were discriminating against African Americans. Right now, we have to be vigilant about standing up for the immigrant too. Instead of kowtowing here, we want immigration reform. That's what we want. Senator Bernie Sanders has brought that up. I think that's a good point. That's what we want. We just don't want willy-nilly shipping them off and no access to a trial or anything. I know that's expensive, but we're spending, I forgot how many billion, what's that, 140 total billion on this ICE idea? It's not cheap. So don't say that you're worried about that expense. You're letting ICE humiliate and just make our government look bad to our citizens. Doesn't sound too democratic, yes, me. So we're going to have to question our government. There's nothing wrong with that. And I think some people who think that, I don't know what they would do in other situations. We got to be for justice. And that's what we stand for. So I just wanted to bring that up. Think about that divine right of kings in Romans 13 and how that applies today. If it does, I don't think it does. I think that's been misused. And it's just my thoughts there. And I just think that's been misused. So we'll be back next Monday, Lord willing, with another time together. I'm going to line up some guests here. I've been working on another project called Administer Justice for my church, First Presbyterian, and it taking some of my time here. That's going to be starting next Saturday in Aurora. Administer Justice at First Presbyterian Church, 9 till noon on 9 till noon every fourth Saturday. So we'll see you then on Monday, Lord willing, as we say. And so for right now, I'll say you bye-bye, and God be with you till we meet again. We'll see you then on Monday. Bye-bye now. Bye-bye.